Hey everyone, Parveen here, Microsoft Certified Trainer, and welcome back to this channel. Today I want to talk about certifications because I get this question a lot. People reach out to me saying that they want to get certified but they're not sure where to start. They're looking at Microsoft website or the certification pages, they're completely overwhelmed with where to start and how to begin. As an MCT, I've taught these certification courses for years and I help people make a decision on what certification to pick. So let me share what I typically tell people when they have these questions and doubts. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's talk through this. There's a lot of doubt whether certifications are worth it or not. And I feel like the truth is somewhere in the middle. Certifications aren't a magic. They are not automatically going to land you a job, but definitely they don't replace your hands-on experience. I have interviewed people with 3, 4, or even 5 certifications who really struggled to explain even the basic concept. On the other hand, I've seen people with 0 certifications being clearly able to tell and explain the service in the cloud. But here's what certifications really do well. They give you a structured path for learning. Instead of randomly picking Azure service to learn, certification objective tells you exactly what you need to know. And honestly, they open doors to a lot of jobs. Most jobs nowadays have certification requirements, whether it's admin level or the expert level. The key is combining certification with the real experience. Don't just study and take the exam. Actually use Azure to build stuff. That's when certification knowledge actually sticks and become valuable for you. So yes, I think certifications are valuable, but you definitely need to know which one to pursue and when. That is what we're going to cover today. Alright, so Azure certifications are organized in 3 different levels: fundamental, associate, and expert. Let me walk you through each one and what that means. The fundamental is AZ900. This covers the basic cloud concept, overview of Azure services, security basics, and pricing. It's pretty high level, so not super technical. This is designed for people who are completely new to cloud and especially Azure. So who should take AZ900? Let's take a look. So if you're coming into IT from a different career, or you're coming from non-technical background, especially if you're a student, or you never touched cloud before, AZ900 is a good start. It builds your confidence and gives you the vocabulary of the cloud. But if you're already working in IT or in cloud roles, or have touched AWS or Azure in a way, I think you should just simply skip it. Next up is associate certification, and there's the 3 main ones that you need to know about. AZ104, the Azure admin. It covers basic managing subscription, storage, virtual network, identity, virtual machines, monitoring, basically everything that you need to know to administer Azure environment. If you're working in IT roles or sysadmin roles, this is the certification you should start with. AZ204, this one is for the software developers who are building applications in Azure. It covers stuff like app services, functions, storage, security implementation, authentication, and integrating different Azure services together. If you're writing code and deploying it in Azure, AZ204 is the one for you. The third one that I have in the list is AZ140, which is Azure Virtual Desktop Specialty. It's more of a niche certification, especially about Azure Virtual Desktop, where you plan, deploy, and manage AVD solutions. It's only for the focus area if you are working with AVD in any way in your current environments. For most people, the choice is either between AZ104 and AZ204, depending on whether you are more on infra side or the development side. The third level is the Azure level, where it's assumed that you already understand the Azure basics and the associate level stuff. The first certification we have in the expert level is AZ305, which is Azure Solution Architect Expert. This is a big one for architects as it covers the designing governance, compute solution, networking piece, storage, and the security baselines. It covers how we design architect scenarios and enterprise level solutions in cloud. This is what senior architects and technical leads pursue. You need to have AZ104 or equivalent experience to be able to sit for this exam. The second up is AZ400, which is DevOps Engineer Expert. It focuses on DevOps practices such as CI/CD pipelines, infrastructure as code, monitoring, dependency management. If you are a DevOps engineer already or looking for SRE path, this is the one for you. There are also some specialty certifications such as AZ500 for security and AZ900 for networking, but those are more specific career paths. We are focusing on the core path that applies to most people. Let's recap this. Now that we know what's available, start with AZ900 if you are new to cloud, go down to AZ104 once you get some basic knowledge, and then pick up which expert certification you want to pursue, whether it's 305 or AZ400. If you're a software developer, start with the AZ900 first to understand the basics of cloud, then go to AZ204 to understand how to deploy services using Azure Functions and web apps, then go to AZ400 to understand the full lifecycle of deployment in Azure using DevOps pipeline. Alright, let's talk about preparing for these exams. Knowing which one to pursue is only half of the battle. Microsoft provides official learning paths on Microsoft Learn. They're pretty good actually. They're comprehensive, they're free, and they regularly get updated as well. For AZ 104 and 305, I recommend checking John Saville's YouTube channel. He really goes deep into each certification concept. There are some paid sites which I will link here, and you can choose which one you like the most. But here's the thing, you need hands-on practice. Don't just watch videos and read documentation. Go into Azure and build stuff. Deploy a VM, deploy a storage account, create a function app, push a code on it and see how it works. The exams are scenario-based, not just memorization. You won't really know what's going on if you just memorize all the concepts. If you don't have access to Azure at work, create a free Azure account. Use the first month's credit to deploy resources. As long as you clean up your Azure resources after you're done, you should be able to practice for your certification without spending any money out of your pocket. Let's talk about the practice exams. The first option you have is Microsoft's official Measure Up. They provide you with the exam question which are really close to actual exam format. They do have good questions, but at some cost. One thing I always recommend is don't just take a practice exam and move on. Practice it multiple times and review all the questions at the end of it to understand which ones you got right and which ones were wrong. Take the lessons from the wrong question and sit through thoroughly and understand what you missed, and go through the exam scenario again to practice before you actually sit for your exam. Let's talk about the next thing. How long will it take for you to attempt and pass the exam? For AZ900, I would recommend at least 3 to 4 weeks if you're new to cloud, and at least 2 weeks if you're already working in IT. For AZ104, the time may vary, somewhere between 6 to 12 weeks, depending on how much you already are familiar with Azure and the cloud concepts. For AZ204, I would recommend giving it more time since it involves you knowing about coding and the development piece. So I'd say 8 to 12 weeks is the ideal scenario considering that you have already done AZ104 or understand the concept that AZ104 covers. AZ305 is really comprehensive. I would recommend giving it 1, 2 or even 3 months sometime depending on how deep are you in Azure and how long you have been working with the cloud services. For me, I guess I took about a year after I was in the cloud role to sit for AZ305 exam. The key with any certification is the consistency. Spending 1 hour every day is better than spending 5 hours on a weekend. Let's talk about the exam day tips once you have scheduled your exam and you're ready to sit for it. The very first piece is always read the question thoroughly and understand what's being asked of. Microsoft scenario-based question often give you multiple scenarios and the context and ask you questions around that. Once you attempt those scenario-based questions, you can't really go back and change anything. So make sure you read the context, understand the story, and then answer those questions. Use the flags while you're attempting for the exam. If you're unsure, flag the question and come back to it later on. Don't spend more than 5 minutes on any question. That time can be used to attempt other questions which you may already know the answers to. If something seems like an obvious answer, it probably is. Trust your preparation and go for it. There are certain things which people forget and miss to do once they pass their exam. First of all, update your LinkedIn and your resume. Share your achievements on LinkedIn so people know that you have just attempted and passed this exam. Certifications are your professional credentials, so you should make sure that people know that you have them. The second really important piece is keep learning. Microsoft certifications are only valid for 1 year. By the time you pass the exam, it probably is the time to renew one of your older exams as well. So keep an eye on your certification expiry and make sure you renew them before the expiry. Cloud is moving really fast. I believe the certification requirements is really forcing you to stay up to date. The third piece, remember, this is just a beginning. It's not the end of the line. Keep building stuff in Azure, keep solving real world problems, and keep an eye on what's new in the Azure world. The certification is going to get you a step in the door, but your actual skills is going to keep you there. Think about where you want your career to go and let that decide what your next certification is going to be. Certifications aren't everything, but they do matter. They validate your knowledge, they confirm that you understand the concepts, and they definitely open doors to a lot of jobs. If you plan strategically and understand which certification you want to do and back that up with the hands-on experience, you are absolutely going to accelerate your career. If you are still figuring out which certification to pick by this time, drop a comment and let me know where you are in your career goal and your journey. I'm happy to give you specific responses and the advice. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more Azure content. I'm Parveen Singh and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious and keep building.